West Ascension Consolidated Gravity Drainage District is called to order for October 5th, 2017. You don't mind standing for invocation? Bow head. Dear Lord, bless us today to make the right decision for our community, for West Ascension Drainage. Dear Lord, bless this great parish, this great city, and also this great state and this great country. Also bless us, bless the armed forces service members who serve for this country to give us the freedom that we have today and the opportunity we have in this great country. Amen. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, roll call. Everyone is here except Mr. Craig Anderson. Accepting of the minute, number item 3.
So moved.
Second. No objection. Item 3 approved. We're going to item 4. I moved it up on the agenda because we might have a longer discussion on this here. The St. James Assumption drainage issue update, Mr. Thomas Pierce. And this is just for, this is by Napoleon and by Barrett. And Mr. Pierce, you have an update. I know we have some people have some questions, but can you just give us an update so we can call them up?
A project meeting was held on September 11th in St. James Parish, and St. James, Assumption, and the Lafouche Levy Board attended, and the discussion included approval of an H&H study that we've been talking about for a couple months.
Can you abbreviate? Can you H&H? That's
hydraulic and hydrology study. And also the discussion was to obtain the core mitigation letter, which will give us a cost of the mitigation, and also to obtain a permit once the mitigation is purchased. And also they discussed to obtain the right-of-way to perform the dredging, and then hire a contractor for construction. Also in that meeting, St. James expressed concerns regarding the elevation differences at the mouth of Bayou Cheville and Lake des Allemands, and requested that a meeting be set up with the Corps to discuss potential dredging in that area. And T. Baker Smith has provided all of the parishes with a copy of the H&H study that was submitted to the Corps on July the 5th of this year, 2017. And the H&H is hydraulic and hydrology study. And the Corps requested that each parish provide written documentation of their approval of the study. So I got the document, the H&H study, and all we got to do is provide a written documentation of our approval, and also St. James and also Assumption parishes, they got the same document. And once the approvals are received by the Corps, the Corps intends to issue the mitigation letter for the project. And the letter will detail the amount of mitigation credits that needs to be purchased, and we talked about that quite a few times. And T. Baker will let the stakeholders know the actual mitigation cost. Once the wetland mitigation is purchased and the Corps has a record of the transaction, the permit will be issued. After the permit is issued, the right-of-way for access and the dredging will need to be acquired. And also the construction can proceed after that. You have to find a contractor or, get maybe another governmental agency to help. And through the public notice period, the DEQ requested that the applicant, which is St. James Parish, obtain a water quality certificate from DEQ. And T. Baker Smith has already processed that information back to the DEQ, and we should have a certificate in 20 to 30 days. At your request, Mr. Chairman, you asked me to contact the engineer to be present at this meeting, and he had a personal family matter that he isn't able to attend tonight, but he's willing to meet with us anytime before the next meeting to discuss any particulars on this project. Also, I notified St. James, and they said that they would send a representative here who is in the audience tonight, and he's the Director of Operations for St. James Parish, and his name is Mr. Blaze Grabwa. And that concludes my report.
Mr. Dawson have a question.
Thank you, Mr. Pierce. Couple of questions on the approval. You said approval of the H&H study. That's approval of the results? Is that correct?
Right, exactly.
And then
That's been completed, and they didn't have, the Corps didn't have any, didn't have any other questions, so they said just make sure the parish is.
So is that something that has to be approved in our case by Western Drainage or the governing authority?
I would say
West
West Ascension Drainage, and I guess you can go to the governing authority too, just to make sure it's locked down.
So, I mean, the other organizations, I don't know, St. James, Blaze, do y'all have any, you have drainage, separate drainage, or is your drainage under the parish?
Wait, if you don't mind coming up to the front. Yeah,
I don't know if I got this, is this on?
it's on.
I was just wondering if do you guys have separate drainage like we have here, the East and West Ascension Drainage, or is it all under the council?
All under the council. We
Okay.
do not have a drainage district.
Okay. So they would have to, you would have to get this approved by your council. Is that correct? So maybe we make a recommendation to the council and send it on to them?
We would do a resolution and from us to the council.
Yeah.
And send it to St. James. We can do it that way.
I send it to our council.
Right. And
Yeah.
then
Okay. And so I'm wondering about this, and Blaze, you were at the meeting, and I think more to Moose is that we talk about the dredging and lake disarmament. All right, so I want to make clear that what the permit that we're talking about here is for maintenance dredging of Bayou Barrette, 5 or 6 miles of this, up in the upper reaches of this. Is that correct?
Exactly.
Now, I don't know, maybe St. James, you want to answer this or not, but we had understood that maybe St. James and some of these other parishes would have a problem if we only dredge these upper reaches without cleaning out the mouth of that goes into Lake Desalmon. I'll call it Bayou Deer. Would St. James, is that an issue with St. James?
No, since the joint meeting that we had a few weeks back, we've already made contacts with Lafourche and St. John to try to. Actually, the entrance to Lake Desalmon on Bayou Chauffeur is in Lafourche Parish. So
Right.
they would have to do the request to the Corps to get the mouth of that canal dredged.
I
So
guess-
we already contacted that councilman in that area to start that effort.
Okay, so I guess what I'm asking though, do you think that St. James, your governing authority, would have a problem with proceeding with this permit to do the dredging up here on the upper end before that work was done?
No, we applied for the permits. We have no problem in trying to get the work done.
Okay,
But
all
in
right.
joint, the comment that was made at the meeting that day was, we could do all of this work on Bayou Verret and all, but we still gonna have an issue on Bayou Chauffeur. So we'd
Right.
like to address all of that.
Okay,
But our intent is to move forward.
okay, perfect. And what the other parish said, we need assumption?
Assumption's lawyers informed me that unless you get the bottom cleaned out, they don't want to just clean the top and let it run on them, unless they change That's the last time I spoke to their lawyer.
So I guess the proof will be in the pudding if they have to adopt this resolution. Is that,
Just to add something to that, the engineering firm has submitted the H&H study to each parish, and he indicated that when he met with Assumption to give them they didn't have a problem, with the documentation and proving that H&H study.
I guess I'd like to make a motion that we draft a resolution saying that we approve the H&H study and recommend approval by the governor, or submission to the governing authority for approval.
All right, I second that, motion. Any objection? That motion carried forward. Now, that's the resolution, okay? What is, and but Lane, the problem is, I have some business in this area that have been having problem with drainage, and we know that, okay? But their concern is, what is the timeline on this? And I know that's one problem that we can't confirm on it, but what is the timeline your engineer had this thing projected that it would be?
I can't honestly answer that. We applied for the permit years ago. We're waiting on the Corps right now. Right now, just like Mr. Pierce said earlier, it's mitigation in right-of-ways I'm waiting on right now. So I have no time frame that I could even be close to predict what that may be.
Okay,
I'm at their mercy right now.
all right. So the right-of-way permit, and just to verify, the Corps of Engineer is just waiting for us with this resolution to, for the mitigation on the property.
When we give the okay, that we okay with this H&H study, because it's completed, and each parish has got it. And when each parish sends the documentation to say that they're okay with the study, the next step is to determine the amount of credits we're going to need to mitigate. And the next step after that, after you determine the amount of credits, then the next step is to purchase the credits and send them proof and verification that you purchased the credits for the mitigation, and then they will send you the permit.
And that mitigation on that property right there, I know we have committed to do whatever we have to do, work with St. James on that cost of that mitigation of that part. And you don't foresee any major problem with that?
We're still waiting on the mitigation to tell us what the cost would be. So until we get that, no, we really don't have no problems in moving forward right now until all of these elements fall into place.
Okay.
We have an estimate. Is that, I'd heard 200,000 or 300,000. Is that,
Yeah,
is that right?
When they get the okay from the three parishes, they're going to determine how many acres that needs to be mitigated, the Corps engineers. And when they determine how many acres to be mitigated, then they're going to send it to us, and then we will have to pick from a mitigation bank, which the cost can be anywhere from, I guess, $20,000 to $40,000 an acre. And as Mr. Dawson alluded to, that might be 200,000 or more.
Mr. Dawson, the engineer that day, is just projecting what he thinks it can be. But we got to wait till it comes back to tell us if it's hardwood or what it might be, and that determines the cost and what bank you go to buy the mitigation. So
Yeah,
we really don't know right now until I'll get that back.
No. I was just trying to give everybody an idea of ballpark.
And then
Could
another
be.
cost,
You're
another
right.
cost is going to be the right-of-way.
Right-of-ways is the next cost.
And then another cost is going to be the construction and dredging.
Then the actual construction itself after that. So once we obtain the mitigation, we know that cost, and it's going to be to get the right-of-ways. If there's costs associated with the right-of-ways, we need the right-of-ways. Then after that is to enter into contract and do the construction of it, to actually dredge it and spray it and move forward from that. So.
And just I did contact Senator Ed Price. He couldn't make this meeting, and he's informed him what is the problem, and hopefully he can work with the Corps of Engineers to speed up this process, because this is becoming a major issue for y'all and for us and just about everyone in this area. And so, also the chairman of Lafourche Levy Board, Mike McKinney, he was supposed to be here, but he's not here, so apparently he got caught up with doing something else. So I contacted everyone that probably can give us any answer to bring people up to date. I appreciate you coming up. I know the commercial property that the hotels group that is sitting out there right now. Y'all have any question or anything that? Sure. Yeah, please step up. And,
Thank you, Mr. Gravois.
Just for those that don't know me, I'm Louis Authamaw, attorney at law, practicing in Louisiana, focusing primarily on real estate developments. I'm appearing this evening on behalf of Jay and Kevin Patel, who are the principal owners of Q Hotel Management, which owns the Holiday Inn Express on Business Park Boulevard here in Ascension Parish. They are accompanied by other business owners who together own $30 million of hotel developments in the area. There's also the actual developer of the business park that my clients purchased their property, who's here, as well as some other property owners. So this drainage problem is for them reaching an epidemic stage to the point where just regular rain events are causing street flooding along the entire boulevard. And for Mr. Jigger Patel, who owns the two hotels at the very beginning of the boulevard, regular rain events are causing the inside of his hotel to flood. So with the weather that we're expecting to get this weekend, it could be devastating to him. And at the moment, we're kind of all pointing fingers, wondering why is this happening? And it sounds like there's a long list of things that have to happen that are in the process of happening, but it's very alarming to these business owners and developers, and it's only going to get worse until something actually happens. So the main message that I feel obligated to communicate to both St. James and Ascension, and if Assumption hears this, is the sooner you can get this problem resolved, the better, because waiting is not going to help any. It's just going to get worse. And I think it's a foregone conclusion that you're probably not going to see much new development in this area until this problem is resolved. So the economic impact is just going to compound itself over time. Just a couple of questions in terms of first step, second step. It sounds like the first step is to get this H&H study approved in writing by the three parishes. Is that correct? And I think what you just did is a resolution asking your parish authorities to send that written approval to the Corps. So, Mr. Gravois, my question for you is, what's it going to take for St. James to do the same type of written approval? Is that something that you can initiate, or what does it take to get that?
If it has to be done through resolution, then all I have to do is draft a resolution to place on the next council agenda to get approval from the council. But technically we have no issue with moving forward. It's just the process that we're going through. So if it's a resolution, then our council is willing to do a resolution to move forward.
I guess the one thing we'd like to leave tonight is an assurance from St. James that you'll get that resolution passed as soon as possible, because it sounds like nothing else can happen until the Corps gets that written approval. Okay? And so then what has to happen for Assumption to do the same thing? Can't speak for Assumption. O'Neill, can you speak for Assumption?
I know our attorney then spoke to him, and Blade, I don't know if did y'all speak to him, to Assumption? Anyone in Assumption on?
Not to my knowledge, no.
Okay. Because it doesn't seem to me that there's any benefit whatsoever to delaying that written approval. It's not going to cost anybody anything, and it's just a technicality that the Corps is waiting on. So I'm pleading with the three civil parishes to get that resolution to the Corps. So then the next question becomes the mitigation credits. Is T. Baker Smith actually handling the mitigation?
T. Baker Smith's handling the whole project.
Okay. And so once the three parish approval is submitted, then the Corps is going to actually calculate how many credits are needed, and T. Baker Smith's going to be involved in that process. Okay. So then the Corps calculates the mitigation credit requirement. Next step would be purchasing the credits.
Yes.
Which would require funding. So is funding available for that through all three parishes?
Well, from what I'm hearing now, then, are you adopting a resolution just to go approve the H&H study? Or your resolution is doing all three?
That's all the Corps of Engineers have requested
Okay,
was
so we
for
have
the
H&H
H&H.
study, we have mitigation, we have right-of-ways. So all of this requires funding and construction costs. So my question now is, I'll go to my council, but what am I going to my council with? The same thing you're going to approve? That you're going to look at cost of mitigation, right-of-ways, drain, construct, all these costs?
Well, we don't have a cost, we don't know what that cost is.
But
So
is your
right now, we're
resolution
just
saying
going,
you're going to share this cost? Because if you're asking me to go to my council, that's what I want to go to my council with. Or because that's our interpretation of the agreement we had at
Right.
the meeting the other day, that we were sharing costs
right.
between three parishes, St. James, Assumption, Ascension, west of Ascension. So are we sharing the cost?
We
those
still-
Well,
three
as far as
categories?
Ascension goes, we're sharing the cost, but
Cost.
we have to know what those costs are before we can
also-
get an approval to
I
spend
fully
it.
agree. We all need to know the cost, and until we get the report back from the Corps, we will
Right.
not know the acreage we're looking at to determine the cost. And we don't know the cost of the right-of-way until we find out the mitigation, how much right-of-way we need. And I don't know the cost of construction until I know how much right-of-way I have to go into it. So there's a lot of factors in here.
Yeah, let me interject in that one. So in terms of the mitigation, I'm not sure that the mitigation is tied into the right-of-way width, because we know what needs to be cleaned out and maintained. That's going to affect how many acres of mitigation are needed, but the width of the right-of-way, or just the right-of-way permission to begin with, is independent of how much mitigation you're going to need. So what's it going to take to get the right-of-way permissions?
That's a tough question, because in all fairness,
know
how
to
we
you.
know that the existing canal that's there now, that has silted in, is going to be the right-of-way of the future? The Corps may tell us that may not be the right-of-way. We may have to assess another
Well,
right-of-way.
you also have to answer
So
some
how we
questions
know that
about
answer?
mitigation. You have to decide whether you can be able to put some of it on a spoil bank, how much you're gonna need, the construction methods also determines the right-of-way requirement. So right now, our step is to get this approval to the Corps for the H&H study. And beyond that, we don't have enough information to go to the council and say, they're not gonna give us a blank check on this. So as the next things become available, we'll bring those back up.
Okay, so we need to be clear on the question that you asked in your resolution, because if I'm going to my council, I want to be very clear. What you're doing on your resolution is only to get the process moving forward,
That's correct.
because we have no idea of the cost.
That's
Until we
correct.
get the
That's what
studies
Corps
back and we know
asking
what
for.
cost is, I'm coming back to you for a resolution looking at cost of mitigation, right-of-ways, and construction costs. But we also need Assumption involved in that also, because some of this affects Assumption. So if Assumption has to play their role in this also, so us three can agree on all of this.
We agree with all that.
Okay.
I have a question about the right-of-ways, and I hate to keep harping on that point, but wouldn't the right-of-ways involved in this be identified by the H&H study? So that at this point, we should at least know
I couldn't.
No, they're not
what canals
necessarily.
are going to be cleaned out?
My understanding is the intent, and I know the engineer couldn't make it tonight, Mr. Pierce stated that, but the intent of the engineer is to use the existing right-of-way that was there previously and get mitigation on it, and then we could move forward with that. But we don't know if the Corps is going to approve that. A lot of this has silted in already, so we have some issues that we got to wait on the Corps right now.
But it also depends on, like I said, construction methods and then where you're gonna bring your equipment in to do the dredging. So those things have to be answered in some cases after you have a
And
construction
dredging, do
plan.
we put it on a small bank? Do we have to
Right.
spray it out?
Right.
I don't have those answers right now.
Right.
So the H&H study is not an
It's approved.
engineering study that tells you how to go about doing.
It's a model.
It's
That-
a model to
it's-
tell you the elevation of the water, if you dig it, and how much water will rise in the area, how much in that. And
It-
apparently, that study was approving it didn't affect the flow of water when you dredge that canal. It didn't affect the surrounding area.
So in order for this project to go out for bidding, so that a contractor can be awarded a contract, are engineering plans going to have to be designed?
Oh, yeah.
as
It's
to
already-
Mechanically, how is this going to happen?
It
Yes.
pretty much,
Yeah.
the study is pretty much have been done on it, so it had been studied and, submitted, and the H&H have been submitted and everything, so they haven't changed anything from what T. Baker Smith has recommended so far.
Okay, but I guess what I'm trying to figure out is, you get the H&H approved by the three parishes, you get the mitigation assessed and paid. At that point, I think you said the Corps is gonna issue the permit. Then you're gonna go out and get the right-of-ways, then you're gonna go out and bid the project and award it to a contractor. But somewhere in that process, the contractor is gonna need to get some kind of specifications as to exactly where he's putting all this and how he's expected to do it. So who's gonna design those?
Well, you have to even do
Baker
that
Smith.
before you do the right-of-way,
And-
right?
And T. Baker Smith hasn't designed those plans yet.
No, they're not in that phase yet. They don't know what to design until they
Right.
get the report back.
All right, so
Yeah.
we got more steps on top of.
You got, I'll be honest with you, you probably have years. It's probably not months, but it's more like years.
Y'all, in all fairness, I'm in this position 2 years I'm in now. 4 years ago when I started with the parish, one of my first meetings I ever attended was here with the previous administration discussing this same thing and applying for a Corps permit. So here we are 4.5 years late and we just getting a permit. And look all what else we have to do. The Corps is a slow process.
So,
Another question, during our meeting we had a week or so ago, there was some discussion about the fact that a couple of culverts along 3127 are partially blocked or substantially blocked. And I think they're in St. James Parish, but in the event they are in St. James Parish, is there any way that those
I think-
culverts could get cleared
Oh,
as some temporary relief?
Ron, what that cover was that coming out of,
Yeah, that's on where the crossing is under Highway 3127.
3127?
So is it St. James or y'all on, it's on the St. James
It's
side?
St.
I think
James.
so, yeah.
Well, the same engineer for the state DOTD works that area, St. James and Ascension, so I'll call the engineer, make him aware of it, and then it's their job to flush it out.
Well, it's actually in front of the culvert. It's not inside of the metal pipe. It's actually on the downstream side, in the channel of the ditch.
That's silted in?
I think a simple excavator with a dump truck probably could clear that out. It's nothing major operation or anything. It's just a blockage.
You know the location of it?
Yes,
Near
sir.
the La
I
Peace
can
Road?
s- I can
Is it near
certainly-
La Peace? Or is it further up?
It's right off of 3127. You pull on the shoulder, and it
Off of 70?
3127.
3127.
3127. Connects to 70.
Right.
So when you said right when you get on 3127,
you go a ways down where
okay, you said right when you get on 3127. Right when you get on 3127 from 70 is still Ascension Parish.
yeah,
You got to go about 2.5 miles
right
in.
to where Verrett crosses 3127. There's dual pipes that
All right.
go under the highway,
That's insane.
and there's one culvert there that's blocked off. I'd be glad to meet someone and show it to them.
Give me a call. I'll gladly
Yes,
have
sir.
my supervisor meet you there. I think that's Ascension Parish. We'll look at it. But if it's ours, I'll do it. But I think that's Ascension Parish.
We'll definitely meet.
Okay.
Take a
All
look.
right.
So, that's the update status we have. I have Mr. Vartel.
Jay Patel, the Q Hospitality. So from what I'm hearing right now, we get it. This is not just 2 or 3 months you talk about, maybe year and maybe years. My question, as a business people here, we have rain for 3-4 hours, 5-hour rain. Our guests cannot even go to the hotel, or they can't get out. Now, I want some advice from you guys. What would I tell them? Because they are coming to work in this parish, and these factories are on here. They're not my guests. They're really parish's guests. So I'm trying to put this in my head, see how we're going to deal with it. Because to me, this is scary right now. The way, from what I'm hearing right now, we might as well close this shop, because we're looking at a lawsuit from the Holiday Inn and from the guests. Because 3-4 hour, 5-hour rain, they could be blocked in a hotel. Or forget they can't come in, but what will happen to the guests that are already in the room? And I just want to get some reality here. So you tell us where do we stand here right now?
But I can tell you right now, I can't, I mean, I've been down this for just like Blade for the last 7-8 years, 5 years with this, since this problem started. And unfortunately, Mother Nature and the permitting and everything else we're going through is our dilemma, we done everything we can do in Ascension Parish, dig the canal. We just dug that canal maybe about a year and a half ago. We maintained it. But once again, once it get to a certain point, it back up in your business. I have residents. I have back of town is a city. Have never flooded in my whole lifetime. Now people houses flooding there. It is a dilemma. All I can tell you is we're bound by right now the Corps of Engineers. They the one determine how far we can go and how quickly we can go.
So I feel like we started about a year and a half ago. We should have known that this is the flooding area, this bad, and when we're getting a permit, we should have that knowledge of it, because that knowledge was that this doesn't flood. Because you issued in a good faith permit to do it at a certain height. So now I'm just trying to you understand what I'm saying?
I understand.
Hotel's
exactly.
already open.
Right.
And I'm not worried I don't get any guests that day. It's okay. I can deal with that. What do I do with the guests already in the hotel? And they can't get out. And I'm not talking about men, they're ladies, women. And they can't. This is the issue that we are in front of it, and we have to answer it. And I see your hands are tied almost. You and you're trying to do the best you could. I'm not blaming you for this. Don't get me wrong. I'm just trying to.
You're looking for a solution to help you.
See where do we go? Because for us, you're the person, or you're the body that would help us resolve this or do this. So I hope you look into that and you look at the reality of it, because believe me, if I knew this, because we're from St. John, LaPlace and Lake Charles, we have hotels all over the place. So it's not that we're going to run away and go anywhere. If we knew this existed, then we would have just avoided it until you put your ducks in a row. That would my concern. Thank you.
Thank you.
I just have one or two follow-up questions. And I'll direct this to O'Neill. Since there's 3 separate civil parishes involved in this, is there a cooperative endeavor agreement between the 3?
We haven't yet because we don't know the cost.
Yeah.
We're not going to be able to do one to come up with the cost.
Okay. And then the scope of T. Baker Smith's engagement, is it just limited right now to the H&H study? So that, I guess what I'm looking for is a quarterback, somebody that's coordinating the next steps between the 3 different parishes to make sure there's follow-up, there's implementation.
And that would be St. James.
That's me.
Okay.
That is
That
me.
would be.
I oversee all of T. Baker Smith's contract. I'm the one that handles with that particular engineer, that's project manager assigned to that project.
Okay.
So we've been overseeing every process, every step of the way.
Okay.
And then got Ascension involved in the joint effort to try to put it together, and that's when Assumption got involved in it also.
Okay. All
Fair
right.
enough. So I guess it's fair to say in the reasonably short future, there's going to be a resolution passed by St. James, and someone here is going to help facilitate a resolution.
In the next 30 days. Matter of fact, this one will be done in.
No, he's talking about St. James. We can't say what that is.
Just looking to get
All we can do is tell you what Ascension's
All
going
we
to
can
do.
tell you what we can do.
But I think what you're saying is you'll at least reach out to Assumption and say, hey, you guys,
Blake
That's
will.
Blaze.
you
All
guys
right.
do that.
Okay, I think the proper step right now to do would be is have your legal counsel send our legal counsel a draft of the resolution that you choose to pass, that you just approved.
Right.
We'll take that resolution, send it to Assumption through their legal counsel for approval. Now all 3 would have the resolutions almost identical, that way there's no misunderstanding of what this agreement is.
Right.
And then we'll ask each council to approve it from there.
Okay.
I'm willing to attend your council meeting to explain St. James's behalf. I'm willing to go to Assumption. I hope you would be willing to come to my council meeting and explain my councilman the same thing, that we'd have this mutual agreement.
No problem.
Perhaps your resolution. O'Neill.
Legal counsel.
O'Neill.
You got it.
Okay.
All right. And so you
All right.
think yours will be approved in about 30 days?
We got another meeting in about 10 minutes.
Okay. We don't want
Thank
to
you,
delay
though.
All right. All right. Moving on to item 5, agreement with the West Ascension and the city of Downsville Ron, we still working on that?
Yes, we are.
All right.
Reviewing
I
what
know
we
I just gave you a map on it and you're working on that detail. Moving to item number 6, 11th Street, and Highway 1. Greg, I know we had the meeting with Railroad Company.
Yeah, I've got an email here today. They're asking for a engineering study on that culvert at the railroad track that we looked at to dig it out, and they want us to get an engineer survey and send them a plan on what we want to do there. So, I can get with engineering and our survey crew and get that started.
Okay.
I did get with Aaron Ellisor, and he is digging Highway 405 right now. So they are working over there,
Okay.
So, something is getting done. It's just slow process of everything else,
All right. Item number 7, Bonnie Lane update. Ron?
Yeah, we actually made contact with the city personnel and asked them, since it was in the city, to please, let's go look at this thing together, put our heads together. They did. They agreed. They actually mobilized and dug and found the pipe and exposed it and did as the gentleman requested and opened it for now until a final solution is decided here with the whole area. So the city did go do some work there and open that ditch up.
So it requested to be an open ditch?
Yeah, they had a culvert that was plugged off.
Well, they covered everything back up as what I went and seen this morning.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was under the
They dug
impression
it up and they put everything back in.
Okay, well, I thought wires
Okay.
got crossed.
They put the
The
culvert
orders were
back
to
in.
leave it open.
They put
to let
dirt
it
back
drain.
in. I'm just, okay, so, all right, if we have to go back there and
Yeah, they need to
work
open
something.
it up and let it drain.
All right. Okay. Item 8, Highway 18 and Highway 3120 drainage issue.
Again,
Mr. Gray?
with Aaron Ellisor and them, I talked to him, and CF and the state are going back and forth with this permit process and just trying to work things out,
Okay. All right, item number 9, West Ascension Master Drainage Plan. And I know we didn't provide the maps and everything, I just guess we still waiting on the language, right, Ron?
That's right. We did have the videos posted. I think you got a copy of
Yeah.
access to it. You asked for a clip, and
Mhm.
they provided that. So if y'all want to make that further available, just people let us know.
I think we need to at least do a little short film and put it on Channel 21 where they can see the drainage, the clearing of what the overview looked like on most of the major bayou, Napoleon Bayou, McCall, some of the major ones that we drain out.
All right, I'll pass that along.
Item number 10, sandbagging machine. Greg or Ron, which one?
You want to answer that?
Yeah, we got specs from Covington. We're going to put this out for bid. I spoke with Ms. Joan in purchasing. We should be getting the documents prepared next week with purchasing to actually go out for bid. We're going to try to buy this on the remaining balance of this year's budget.
Okay.
So we're going to look at trying to move that forward.
Why are we talking about the sandbagging? Can we talk about the 2 pieces of equipment that we have out for lease and what the information you found so far?
The grade all machine, we do have at least till November of next year, but I believe at the end of that, at least we have the option to buy that unit. So it wouldn't be any additional funding other than the lease payments for that year.
Okay.
And the other excavator is the long reach excavator. The lease will expire on that. I believe we may have to go out for bid for that unit next year. And we do have that budgeted, I believe, at $290,000 to get a new unit to replace that one.
Can we look at the 3-year financing plan?
Yes, certainly.
Okay.
Well, you gotta go to the bond commission if you can finance something. You can't even, unless it's a lease, you gotta go to the bond commission to finance anything.
Well, put us on the list.
So we'll get you contact Malcolm now. Okay. All right. Item number 11, reports. Mr. Ron,
We pretty much covered everything.
all right. Mr. Greg,
Right now, we're trying to catch up on the grass cutting, hoping it stays dry. I'm hoping this little thing coming in ain't too much, but we're trying to catch up on the grass cutting. We're all digging a couple off-fall ditches and, keeping them busy.
All right, I know I've been getting a lot of phone calls by McCall behind, Savoy subdivision, Bun Hood and all that, and the high school, that canal right there for grass cutting on that one there. So, I don't know where you're at on status on it, but
I'll check.
I know you're on rotation. Mr. Thomas Pierce,
I'm good.
Miss Peggy, date and time? November 2nd, 5:15. Item number 13, item number 13.
Move to adjourn.
I second. Meeting adjourned.